I've had ample time to think about men. I'd say one about so high, shoulders about like this.
Though not cut in stone, Hollywood has long followed a familiar script when it comes to romance. Older men, younger women. But what's fun about playing by the books? Here are 10 leading actors in old Hollywood who flipped the switch by marrying older women. Number 10. Clark Gable. Clark Gable was a handsome man, and he knew it. His rugged good looks, deep voice, and undeniable charm made him a natural heartbreaker, and he knew how to use those gifts to keep women in his pocket. But while most remember him as the ultimate leading man of Hollywood's golden age, only a few realize that his rise to stardom was carefully shaped by a woman nearly 2 decades his senior, his first wife, Josephine Dillon. You see, Gable had a particular taste when it came to women. He loved them old, independent, and very powerful. Why? Because he knew that success in the film industry wasn't just about talent. Having the right connections was just as important, and he made sure to get close to the women who held the keys to Hollywood's golden gates. That said, Gable's journey into acting was as bohemian as it gets. He never dreamt of being a Tinseltown star. He wasn't even called Clark. Back then, he was just Billy, an ordinary young man with no clear direction. But everything changed at 17 when he saw a stage play titled Bird of Paradise. The performance ignited something in him, and from that moment on, he was determined to become an actor. He worked odd jobs, joining traveling stock companies, and flirted with older women along the way. Curious about how Gable met Josephine Dillon? A few accounts claim he showed up at her Portland office to fix her phone, while others say he enrolled in her acting class and became her most promising student. Either way, Dillon, a respected Broadway stage director and acting coach, was smitten by Gable's allure. She immediately saw potential in the ambitious young man and swore to shape him into a star. She immediately paid for his dental work, encouraging him to style his hair differently, and even helped refine his voice and mannerisms. Most importantly, she convinced him to drop the name Billy and embrace his more sophisticated middle name, Clark. Fast forward to 1924, and Dillon was so in love with Gable that she agreed to move to Hollywood together, which brings us to the first problem. Morality was everything in the industry. An unmarried couple traveling across the country to live together was unheard of. So they exchanged vows on the 13th of December, 1924. Gable was 23, while Dillon was 41, an 18-year gap. However, it's safe to say that the wedding itself was hardly romantic. A friend hosted a small party in their honor, but Gable spent most of the evening dancing with a wealthy blonde, while Josephine seethed. He didn't even speak to her on the way home. He just tipped his hat, said goodnight, and went to bed alone. Despite being husband and wife, Gable never respected the sanctity of their union. The actor flirted with younger, attractive co-stars and skipped home for days without any explanation. He also grew embarrassed at Dillon's constant presence at his performances and told her to stop coming. By the time their marriage was crumbling, Gable had already found his next benefactor, Maria Rhea Langham, a wealthy Texas socialite. She lavished Clark with expensive gifts, paid for his clothes, and introduced him to high-profile connections. After agreeing to a divorce in 1930, Dillon focused on her coaching job until poor health forced her to retire in the mid-1960s. She was hated by Gable fans and received hate mail blaming her for trying to profit off his success. Yet, she never retaliated. She swallowed all the insults and shame because she was still in love with Gable and carried a torch for him all her life. Sadly, our next celebrity husband wasn't any better.
I could ask you to turn your pockets out, but I won't do that. I'll just ask you one question.
Number 9. Lawrence Harvey. Looking back, it's fair to say Margaret Leighton was one of the most underrated actresses of the old acting world. She was more than a performer, a woman who commanded the stage and always knew how to draw the audience's attention. Born in 1922, Leighton carved her place in British theater before transitioning to Broadway in 1946. She used all the gifts at her disposal: elegance, a jolly personality, and a powerful voice that could cut through any scene. Success wasn't simply a given. She earned 4 Tony Award nominations, winning twice for Separate Tables in 1957 and The Night of the Iguana in '62. But don't take this to mean her theater talents were solely limited to the stage. She graced television in 1970's Hamlet and won an Emmy for a breathtaking performance. Wondering why she was so loved? Leighton's ability to portray women of quiet strength and emotional depth was unlike anything audiences and critics had seen at the time. Whether on stage or screen, she exuded a rare sophistication that no one could get enough of. Sadly, her off-stage life was far from the perfect characters she played, especially when it came to Lawrence Harvey, the very definition of charm with a hint of danger. Born in Lithuania in 1928 and raised in South Africa, Harvey took the British film industry by storm with his intense performances. His breakthrough role in 1959's Room at the Top is still fresh in the memory. He earned an Academy Award nomination and followed it up with a dazzling performance in The Manchurian Candidate 3 years later. He had the talent, the arrogance, and, most importantly, the looks that made him irresistible to women. Margaret Leighton was no exception. Would you believe Leighton was married to publisher Max Reinhardt by the time she met Harvey? Their marriage was seemingly stable and respectable, but safe. Then came a younger, magnetic, and utterly intoxicating Harvey to blow it all up. Despite being 4 years older than Harvey, the attraction was said to be immediate, and it didn't take long for Leighton to leave her husband for him. A woman divorcing her husband for a man she's older than? Just imagine how rad that must have been in the old days. The affair was scandalous, but hey, the heart wants what it wants. They briefly courted and tied the knot in 1957 amidst sizzling tabloid coverage. For a time, Leighton and Harvey were one of the most glamorous pairs in the industry, but it didn't take long for the relationship to crash on its head. Harvey's reputation as a womanizer preceded him, and his charm, so alluring at first, soon became a source of conflict. The marriage lasted for only 4 years, and they got divorced in 1961. Some say it was Harvey's wandering eye that drove them apart, but others believe their fiery personalities simply couldn't coexist for long. Unlike Josephine Dillon, Leighton moved on after the divorce, marrying actor Michael Wilding in 1964. They had no children, but remained married until the actress died in 1976. She was only 53 when she finally lost a drawn-out battle with multiple sclerosis. Harvey, on the other hand, continued his career and his affairs. He married twice more and had a daughter, but his personal life remained as tumultuous as ever. He died of stomach cancer in 1973 at the age of 45. That being said, Leighton wasn't the only older woman Harvey pursued. There was another, and her name might surprise you. Stick around to find out the shocking reveal and the hidden plot twist behind the scenes that no one saw coming. Number 8. Humphrey Bogart. Clark Gable and Humphrey Bogart have a lot of similarities. They were both kings of their era, leading men with effortless charm and innate charisma that made women swoon. However, they weren't cut from the same cloth when it came to romance. Gable had a well-documented preference for older women. His first wife was 17 years his senior, and even later, he was drawn to women with experience, wisdom, and power in the industry. Bogart, on the other hand? Different gravy. With no clear preference or type, Bogart had flings with many women his age, older, or much, much younger. Skeptical? Look no further than Helen Menken, a woman who Bogart was 2 years away from. Not much was stated as to how the pair met, but what we do know is that the actor wasn't happy about his wife's decision on a lot of things, including being on The Captive. In their divorce papers, Helen claimed that he was often drunk when she returned from rehearsals and that he had hit her multiple times. Like many of her friends and colleagues, Bogart was aware of her secret. She was drawn to the Sappho crowd because she was attracted to both men and women. Rumors circulated that she had affairs with the famously bisexual Tallulah Bankhead and other women. Perhaps Bogart found this humiliating or threatening. Down the line, he fell in love with a different woman, Lauren Bacall, a woman who was 25 years younger than Bogart. Born Betty Joan Persky in 1924, Bacall made her film debut in 1944's To Have and Have Not. But from the moment she looked up at Bogart with that smoldering, confident gaze, the audience and Bogart himself were smitten for life. Despite being 2 decades her senior, everyone loved the on-screen chemistry both actors had on screen. And by the time they married in 1945, they were one of the industry's most legendary couples. But Bacall's story didn't end with Bogart. He was the love of her life, but love alone couldn't cheat death. The actor died of esophageal cancer, leaving Bacall a widow at just 32. Hollywood moved on quickly, but grief doesn't work that way. She struggled to find footing in a world that suddenly felt emptier without him. It was during this time that she became involved with Jason Robards, but Bogart was always the one she loved, the one she lost, and the one no one else could truly replace.
Playboy Club, so we went to the Playboy Club to, go dancing, and 2 hours later we were still talking, hadn't danced at all. Anyway, one thing led to another, and she...
Number 7. Kurt Russell. Despite never officially marrying, Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell are one of the longest-standing couples in Hollywood and have been together since 1983. For more than 40 years, the two have worked together on screen, built a blended family, raised a son, and become grandparents to 7. Their heartfelt story began in 1968 when they first met on the set of the one and only genuine original family band. Hawn was 21 at the time, while Russell was 16. Given the latter's age, romance was an unlikely prospect, but fate had other plans. The duo reconnected in 1983 when Russell was auditioning for Swing Shift. He was now a 32-year-old man and far more refined than he was as a teenager. His charming yet unpolished pickup line, commenting on Hawn's figure, unexpectedly won her over. They booked a first date, which ended with police interrupting their time in an unfinished house, but set the stage for a lifetime of fun and passion that Hawn was searching for. Both stars are completely smitten by each other, especially Hawn, who is blown away by Russell's devotion to her children, Oliver and Kate Hudson. This proved to be a catalyst that significantly deepened their bond. Fast forward to 1986. The couple welcomed their son, Wyatt Russell, completing their blended family. Over the years, Hawn and Russell have supported each other's career, starring together in the 1987 cult classic Overboard, and later reuniting as Santa and Mrs. Claus in the Christmas Chronicles films. Throughout their decades together, they've attended red carpets, celebrated major milestones, and shared heartfelt moments. One of the most memorable was in 1989, when they playfully teased the idea of marriage while presenting an Oscar, leaving the audience both entertained and curious. But despite the constant speculation, they've remained steadfast in their choice not to marry. As Hawn explained, their relationship thrives on choice, not obligation. They have since welcomed grandkids and doubled down on their deep friendship, humor, and unwavering support. The secret to their undying love? Hawn once shared that the key to their relationship is intimacy. She believes it's the greatest connection in any relationship and sets the tone for more belonging. Russell, in turn, has never shied away from expressing his admiration for his partner, famously telling her during their Hollywood Walk of Fame ceremony that he owes Hawn his life. More than 4 decades later, Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell remain one of Hollywood's most beloved couples, proving time and again that love, when nurtured, can outlast even the strongest traditions. Speaking of long-lasting marriages, up next we have Number 6. Bart Freundlich. Bart Freundlich is far from a household name in front of the camera, but he's been responsible for a lot of the magic behind it for years. As a director, writer, and producer, he spent his career shaping scripts, stories, and unforgettable moments, one of which led him to the love of his life, Julianne Moore. Moore first met Freundlich while reading the script for The Myth of Fingerprints, his 1997 indie drama. She was immediately drawn to the story, but what she didn't expect was how much it would change her personal life. At the time, she was coming off a divorce and wasn't necessarily looking for love. But there was something so magical about Freundlich's vision and demeanor that deeply resonated with her. Yes, the project was Freundlich's directorial debut, but it was also the beginning of their relationship. Acquaintances became friends and then lovers. Their bond grew in strength, and just a year later, they welcomed their first child, Caleb, followed by their daughter Liv in 2002. Parenthood surely deepened their connection, but it's safe to say they took their sweet time before making it official. It wasn't until 2003, 7 years together, that they decided to marry. So far, so good. Freundlich has maintained a steady career as a filmmaker, directing projects like Trust the Man, After the Wedding, and others that have featured more. Despite the years that have gone by, the love shared between the pair has remained strong, proving that relationships in Hollywood can defy the odds. In interviews, Moore has been candid about what makes their marriage work. She believes the key is that they genuinely enjoy each other's company, making laughter an essential part of their daily lives. She also maintains that the best marriages have one thing in common: selflessness, choosing each other every day. Freundlich shares that sentiment. Now, decades into their relationship, the beautiful couple still find ways to celebrate and support one another. They don't care about the stigma of a 9-year gap and attend every event together. It goes to show how long something can last when two people are equally invested in making it work.
You're working here.
Why are you doing this, Kitty?
I like my work. Besides, you meet a better class of people than you do on the road.
Number 5. Lawrence Harvey. Yes, Lawrence Harvey makes our list once again, this time with the beautiful femme fatale, Joan Perry. Make no mistake, guys, Perry wasn't just another Hollywood beauty. She had carved out a respectable career in the industry long before Harvey entered her life. Born in 1911, the star grew up in Tampa, Florida, and first found the spotlight as a model in New York City. Her legend began to precede her, and by the mid-1930s, she was already in Hollywood, having signed a contract with Columbia Pictures. There, she starred alongside leading men like Ronald Reagan, Ralph Bellamy, Lou Ayres, and Melvyn Douglas. She later moved to Warner Brothers, appearing in films like International Squadron and 9 Lives Are Not Enough, both in 1941. That same year, she tied the knot with Columbia Pictures mogul Harry Cohn, a man known for his tyrannical grip over the studio. Their marriage lasted until his death in 1958, making Perry not only his widow, but also an incredibly wealthy woman. She was left with an estate worth millions, granting her a lifestyle of luxury, power, and social status. And that, guys, is where Lawrence Harvey came in. Similarly to Clark Gable, Mr. Harvey was nothing if not ambitious. He had already made a name for himself with roles in Room at the Top and The Manchurian Candidate, but his personal life often raised more eyebrows than his performances. By the time he and Perry crossed paths, he had already been through a marriage with Margaret Leighton, whom he had famously lured away from another man. But Perry was different. She was richer, more successful, and had the kind of star power that Harvey was looking for. Alas, their marriage was short-lived, with speculation swirling about why. Some believed Perry, with her wealth and connections, was an appealing partner for Harvey's career. Others thought their differences, age, temperament, and personal ambitions, made them a doomed match from the start. Whatever the reason, they divorced, and Perry moved on from Hollywood's golden boy just as quickly as she had embraced him. She remained a fixture in California high society, residing in Palm Springs and Montecito until her death in 1996 from emphysema at the age of 85. She was buried at Hollywood Forever Cemetery among the very stars who had shaped her life. But as for Harvey, well, his romantic entanglements only added to the mystery of his character. Rumors persisted that he was gay, with some believing his relationships with older women were mere facades. However, one of his acquaintances nipped the rumors in the bud. He claimed that Harvey wasn't gay, but a hedonist. He needs fame before others and would have bedded a porcupine if it would have furthered his career. Buttressing this is the fact that Harvey had a relationship with James Wolfe, a gay film producer who successfully steered him into some decent films in the 50s and finally into Room at the Top. Coming next is a couple unlike anything Hollywood has ever seen. They prove that love doesn't always have to follow the traditional script. Number 4. David Arquette. Is it safe to say that Courtney Cox and David Arquette's love story is far more complex than the archetypal Hollywood romance? Spanning a decade, their relationship has transfigured from friendship to lovers to partners, an enduring friendship that remained even after their divorce. Not a lot of people know this, but it all began when David and Courtney met while filming Scream in the 1990s. David was immediately smitten, but Courtney needed some convincing. David later admitted that he had to trick her into dating him, but their on-screen chemistry as Gale Weathers and Dewey Riley translated into real-life romance. By the time Scream 2 was in production, they were in an on-again, off-again relationship, and by Scream 3, they were married. Imagine that! As you'd expect from a highbrow celebrity marriage, their wedding in 1999 was a star-studded affair, attended by friends, co-stars, and Hollywood elites like Brad Pitt. Everyone bore witness to the couple's big day, however, their journey together wasn't without challenges. Courtney had issues with infertility, openly revealing that while she could get pregnant easily, carrying to term was difficult. She had several miscarriages and rounds of IVF before they bore a daughter, Coco, back in 2004. But while parenthood was enough to fix the union at first, the cracks got worse over time. David described their dynamic as one where Courtney no longer wanted to mother him, a sentiment she echoed by claiming certain relationship issues never change. They tried to bury the hatchet and undergo therapy, but it just wasn't meant to be. The couple got separated amidst a media frenzy, while David admitted that they weren't being intimate and that he was struggling to grow up. He checked himself into rehab a year before their divorce in 2012. In spite of their separation, David and Courtney remain close. They speak fondly about each other, with Courtney going as far as claiming he was her favorite person in the world. They continued to co-parent Coco and even work together professionally. Before we talk about the magical relationship between our next Hollywood couples, why don't you subscribe to the channel and turn on your post notifications? It'll keep you up to date on every activity that goes on in the channel with zero downside.
Grateful for it because I couldn't do it without my husband and I couldn't do it without anybody.
Number 3. Benji Madden. Now, I know what you're thinking. Benjamin Madden? Isn't he a musician? Well, you're not exactly far from the truth. You see, Benji Madden is renowned as being the lead guitarist and backing vocalist of Good Charlotte. But make no mistake, his influence stretches beyond music. While his band has contributed to the soundtracks of numerous films, including American Wedding and Underworld Evolution, Madden himself has, perhaps unsurprisingly, dabbled in acting. Shocked? You shouldn't be. He made a brief appearance in the 2000 indie film Material Girls, starring Hilary and Haley Duff. Though his screen time has been limited since then, his connection to Hollywood deepened in a more unexpected way through his relationship with Cameron Diaz. Curious? You should be. It's one of the more magical stories on our list today. You see, Cameron Diaz first crossed paths with Benji Madden in May 2014 at an event also attended by his twin brother, Joel Madden, and Joel's wife, Nicole Richie. She was surprised to realize they shared mutual connections, but had never been formally introduced. Would you blame her, though? Diaz is an A-list actress with a long career in romantic comedies and action films, while Madden was a punk rock musician. And don't even get me started about the notable age gap. Diaz was 41 at the time, while Madden was 35. However, fate had other plans. They met through Nicole Richie, Madden's sister-in-law, and their connection quickly grew into something meaningful. Fast forward to July, and a smitten Benji publicly announced Diaz as his muse. He waxed lyrical about his romance with the actress, confessing she inspired him creatively. It was a sentiment that hinted at how deeply their bond had grown in such a short time. Want to guess how long it took them to get engaged? Well, it was 7 months. By December 2024, they announced their engagement amidst widespread fanfare. Friends noted that Madden had even sought the blessing of Diaz's family before proposing. They got married the following month at their Beverly Hills home, surrounded by friends, family, and loved ones. Over the years, Cameron Diaz has spoken about how their marriage has given her a new perspective on herself and her priorities. In a 2022 interview, she admitted that before Madden, she had been seeking validation from external sources, but she was only able to truly value herself when she met Benji Madden. They welcomed their first child, Radix, in December 2019, followed by their son, Cardinal, in 2024. Curious about how they think about one another? Diaz describes marrying her husband as the best decision of her life. She expressed deep admiration for him, calling him an incredible person, a wonderful partner, and a devoted father. Looking back, it's amazing to say how their love has been anything but fleeting in spite of their different backgrounds. What began as an unexpected pairing has turned into a decade-long marriage built on mutual admiration, support, and, as Madden once put it, an unshakable partnership that feels like home. The next relationship on our list is just as awe-inspiring. Number 2. Van Hunt. With just 3 years between them, Van Hunt and Halle Berry may not have the biggest age gap on our list today, but we're still saying they count. Born on March 8, 1970 in Dayton, Ohio, the singer-songwriter began dating the Oscar-winning actress in 2020. But while most people know him as a Grammy-winning musician, he has also dabbled in acting, appearing in Forgetting Sarah Marshall in 2008, Coach Carter in 2005, and more recently, Bruised in 2020. But let's be real for a second, guys. His biggest stir in Hollywood in recent years has ironically been off-screen, his real-life romance with Halle Berry. As funny as it sounds, their love story kicked off in 2020 during the world-changing COVID pandemic. They texted and called each other every day in spite of the lockdown. It was their routine for 4 months before they eventually had a physical interaction. Berry later admitted she'd never fallen in love this way before, but there's a first time for everything, right? There was simply something magical about Hunt's mind and conversation that pulled her in. Remember when Van Hunt teased their romance on Instagram, posting a photo of Berry kissing his cheek with the caption, "My bamboo"? Berry kept things mysterious, preferring to post a cryptic photo of the two pairs of intertwined feet with the caption, "Sunday, Fun Day." Speculations of a possible relationship ran wild for months, but it wasn't until September that Berry finally confirmed their relationship by posting a photo of herself in a Van Hunt. From there, things moved quickly. Hunt met Berry's children, and by early 2021, their love story was in full bloom. They made their red carpet debut at the Oscars, and Berry openly gushed about Hunt, calling him the love of her life. She had finally found her soulmate at the age of 54. Hunt, for his part, was equally smitten. He credited Berry with changing his life, not just in music, but in every aspect, including his parenting. He even wrote a deeply personal essay about her, praising her strength, heart, and honesty. What could possibly be more romantic than that? Berry seems to know the answer. She posted a picture of them kissing at an altar with the caption, "It's official," much to the shock of the entire world. Fans trooped en masse to congratulate the couple, while others played detective to decipher whether or not they had secretly tied the knot. While they weren't legally married, Berry recently revealed that her son Maceo had taken matters into his own hands by officiating a makeshift commitment ceremony in the back of a car. Whether or not they ever make it official, one thing is clear. Halle Berry and Van Hunt's love story is one of deep connection. Their bond seems to get stronger by the day, and we're always rooting for their happiness. Coming next is a golden age icon, Mr. James Bond himself.
Can I help you?
Yes, my name is Bond. James Bond. I'm looking for Dr. Goodhead.
You just found her.
A woman?
Number 1. Roger Moore. On screen, Roger Moore was the embodiment of suave and effortless charm. Only Sean Connery could rival his appeal as the British super spy James Bond. He made espionage look like a gentleman's game, always poised, always in control. But behind closed doors, his life with Dorothy Squires was anything but smooth. Their love story had the grandeur of a Hollywood romance, but the rapid turbulence of a high-stakes thriller. Grab your snacks, guys. This is a story unlike anything you've heard before. Blessed with a massive voice and the ability to sing every word as if she'd lived it, Squires was already a star when she met Moore. She had a string of hits in the late 40s and early 50s, including Coming Home, The Gypsy, I'll Close My Eyes, I'm Walking Behind You, and much more. Her voice was capable of silencing a room and allegedly made Elvis Presley cry. But when she saw Moore, she dropped her guard and became coquettish, as she always did when she saw an attractive man. Moore, on the other hand, was an aspiring actor at 24. He was drawn into her orbit at one of her notorious parties where excess was the theme and restraint an afterthought. Their connection was electric, the kind that consumes everything in its path. Squires had seen heartbreak before, but the actor made her feel like she was living a fairy tale. He followed her into the kitchen, flirting along the way, then he kissed her, picked her up, and carried her in his arms up the sweeping staircase. However, the intensity of their love was only matched by the volatility of their marriage. She was possessive, he was restless. She craved control, he sought freedom. One of the more ugly examples of this was days after a hard shoot. Moore went home tired and hungry, only to be told that dinner wasn't going to be served. Their fights were legendary, as passionate as their reconciliations. But as Moore's career soared, the cracks in their relationship widened. By the time he started his relationship with Italian model Luisa Mattioli, Moore was absolutely livid. She carefully selected an elegant dress from her walk-in closet, applied her makeup, and chose a delicate gold chain from her overflowing jewelry box. Then came the fit of rage. She threw everything she could at him, screamed, and even threatened to harm herself. Refusing to let go, she stretched the divorce out for years, exploiting every legal option to keep him, if not as a lover, then at least as her husband in name. When she finally accepted defeat, she did so with dramatic flair. Finding out where he lived with Mattioli, she stormed the house and shattered every window in sight. Though she managed to reclaim some of her stardom in the late 60s and 70s, her relentless battles in court drained her finances and spirit. The final nail in the coffin was an addiction to amphetamines. Just like that, the voice that had once captivated audiences faded into obscurity. She died in 1998 after a long-running battle with cancer. She was 83 at the time and lived her final years penniless and homeless. She was poor to the point where she had to depend on a lifelong fan who decided to take her into his home without paying any rent. Arguably the saddest demise of a star in her era, Squire's story is one of tragedy, a life that had burned so brightly reduced to whispers of what once was. If you liked it, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and check out the video currently displaying on your screen for more juicy Hollywood stories.